So today I experienced the future of video games, the future of interactive entertainment that I have dreamed of since I started thinking about games and, video games back in 93, 94. I'm going to show it to you first, and you're not going to recognize it. I wouldn't expect you to, but I want to give you some context. It's like a 20-second video clip. This is the moment I experienced. See Riker over there from Star Trek, the holodeck? This was that. You got to see this.
Okay. I'll hold it here. Go.
I'll brace it with something.
Ah! Shit, sorry.
You two okay?
Yeah. Crank broke.
What now?
Abby, look. A hatch. Manny, just hang tight. We're gonna find a way up to the roof.
Okay.
So, glad you hitched a ride with us? Right.
Okay, I get it. You're like, I don't understand. What am I missing? Absolutely. You wouldn't get what happened unless you were playing it, okay? But I was playing it, okay? So I experienced it incorrectly, but there was a moment where my brain experienced it incorrectly and I didn't know it was incorrect. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is amazing. And it felt as great and immersive as I always thought it would. I'm going to show you the clip again, but I'm going to talk over it this time. Okay, here it is. This is obviously from The Last of Us Part 2. Abby and, I don't know, Manny and this other lady are kind of trapped in this warehouse. And they find this crank, and Abby's cranking the crank, and she's like, let me lift this crank. It'll let me crank this. It'll lift the door up. You guys can go under. So the dog goes under. Manny goes under. And as I'm playing it, I'm just kind of like, I'm like, what happens if I let go of the triangle button? Because I knew the other woman, the pregnant woman, wasn't under the door yet. And I know our characters don't really get along, or at least this point in the story. So I'm like, what? I wasn't trying to crush her. I was just like, I'm going to fuck with her. I just want to see if they've come up with a line of dialogue, just what happens, right? So right as she's about to go under, I let go. Well, right when I let go, the door slams down, and suddenly I back up, my character backs up, and I'm like, wait, what happened? And they're like, oh shit, the crank broke off, okay? And now her and I are inside the warehouse trying to figure out a way out. There's a whole puzzle sequence. There's a whole level design. There's dialogue. And not the problem, but the truth of the matter is everybody got that experience, right? If you hadn't played that moment of gameplay in the headspace that I was in, which is, it's so rare. I don't think it's ever happened to me where I'm like, I'm just going to try something. And at best, I just expected her to, give Abby a line like, you're a fucking asshole. I don't know, whatever. But the experience of my brain when I experienced that was, oh my God, it is like the holodeck. The game is writing itself around my actions. The game is literally saying, eventually, again, we won't be alive to see this. We might see the beginnings of it, but we won't be alive to see the real manifestation, I don't think, even the youngest person watching this, because it's all AI. It's all going to take AI in tremendous amounts of processing to understand this. But the gist of it is the game, like it would take, let's say Neil, and I forget what her name is, the woman who wrote Last of Us 2 with Neil, and they sit there and they tell the computer, this is the vision, this is the world, this is the core story, this is the spine of the story. Here are the big beats that we have to make sure happen. And then the AI steps in and says, I got it, pal, not a problem. I'll take care of it. You guys go to Bermuda, whatever it is you do, and I will absolutely take care of this. And so suddenly the game is adjusting in real time to you as a player. And it feels so immersive. That moment I just had where I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That branched off the narrative to something that is still compelling and fun and well designed, but it's all because I made this little choice. What else can this game do? And then very quickly I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't actually everybody had the broken handle scenario. And it's not like Detroit Become Human, although that tries to replicate it, but you can't replicate it with writing. It's got to be procedural because players get in there and they fuck around and they try things. And EA just filed a patent. Now, I mean, we've seen this in not Drawn to Death. We've seen this in what's the goddamn zombie? Left 4 Dead. We've seen this a little bit in, I think, Devil May Cry, where the game adjusts in real time the difficulty because it wants to keep the player engaged. I'm not sure what EA patented because they're not the first ones to come up with the idea, but maybe it's the way they're doing it and tracking to determine when they need to adjust difficulty in real time so the player stays engaged in the game. That's the kind of stuff, though. Those are the pebbles that spread out the ripples. Those are the tiny little pebbles that create the cobblestones that lay the path. So we're at the beginning of this. But ultimately, we will have computers and we will have writers and we will have software that is written with the exclusive purpose to say, AI, here is my vision, wrap it around the player. Whatever the player does, entertain them in this way, entertain them with this kind of cadence. But I need this story to be told within the confines of that, but within your ability to write in real time as we go. I'll tell you one little inside story that's related. David Self is an Oscar-nominated screenwriter. He wrote the screenplay that got him a nomination, is 13 Days, which, if I recall, was Kevin Costner playing one of the Kennedys. It was about the Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay. So he was hired. He got paid $1 million to write the God of War screenplay. This was before the new one or any of that. This was God of War 1 had come out 4 months earlier, and a company, the guys who made Batman Begins, said, we want to make a movie. They hired him. Great. I read the screenplay. It was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. But the thing that stuck with me about that I adored, if you played God of War 1 and you remember it, there's a sequence in there called Pandora's Temple. And Pandora's Temple story is there's a guy like Pathos Verdes, I don't know what it's, something like that. And he's the architect of Pandora's Temple. And in the game, he went crazy. His sons ended up being sacrificed just through, dangers of building this booby trap-laden temple. He ended up dying, never finishing the temple. On the top of the temple where he died, you find his body, you find his skull. It's great. I think it's great. But in the script, David Self wrote the character still alive. And he had this sort of, I don't know if it was magical or from the gods or same thing. I don't know if it was his quill or his parchment or I don't know what it was. But whenever he would write or draw plans for Pandora's Temple, it literally in real time, in the movie, it was going to be happening in real time. So if he drew a drawbridge, the drawbridge is like, and it appears, right? So you as Kratos ended up having to deal with this guy as an antagonist where you're trying to get to Pandora's box, and literally your danger is not coming from booby traps made 1,000 years ago. It's coming from, it's almost like fighting the Green Lantern. It's whatever this guy could think of occurred. Well, that's kind of what I'm talking about with this. This is the computer going, I'm going to adjust to whatever you do. And not only am I going to adjust to it, I'm going to adjust to it in order to entertain you. And not only am I going to adjust to it in order to entertain you, I'm going to adjust to it in order to entertain you and stay within the emotional and narrative boundaries that humans have set up, that a person like Corey or Neil Druckmann or maybe you have set up and said, this is my world, this is my story, this is my tone. Computer, go for it. Boy, I'll tell you what, that's not here yet. I won't live to see it. Oh, but boy, I'll tell you, I hope reincarnation is real because I want to come back and play in that shit. I experienced it today with Last of Us 2, inadvertently, accidentally. It wasn't what it was, but my brain at the time didn't know it, and my brain, sure enough, adored it just as much as I thought it would. Boy, I'll tell you, we are in for a ride if we survive long enough. Take it easy, be well, be safe. See you soon. Bye.